As you may know, United's existing bylaws were adopted in 1994. The California laws governing our community have experienced so much change within the past few years alone, it makes our current bylaws unreliable. As our community has continued to develop, our needs have changed. The updated bylaws will help us address our changing needs. Moreover, it only makes sense to have governing documents that are updated and reflect modern law. The board has worked closely with United's attorneys in drafting the proposed amendment and restated bylaws to ensure that your interests are protected and the community is properly managed. The proposed bylaws clearly and effectively set forth policies and procedures for the governing of the community. Most importantly, the proposed bylaws have been updated to reflect current law and important provisions have been clarified. The board's goal through this important process has been to assure that United's and, significantly, your interests are represented and adequately addressed. We encourage you to vote in favor of the proposed amendment and restated bylaws.
Well, you just saw that spot for the bylaw vote for United, and right now we have on United's board president, Juanita Skillman. Hello. How are you, Juanita? Good to see you today.
Thank you. Thank you. This is our budget day, so
it's
a very busy, busy day.
Yes, exactly. So I know there's several things you'd like to touch on, but particularly you want to talk about the bylaws. We just saw that spot.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to give an overview of what happened at our meeting on Tuesday in case people didn't see it, although it's on 2 more times. So if you haven't seen it, please tune in. Our attorney, Jeff Beaumont, was there and gave a really nice explanation of the bylaws and why and what and how, that kind of thing. So we really appreciate him being there. We had 5 architectural control standards variations that were all approved, and we also approved the standard manner alteration conditions that contractors get when they do alterations. And then we had 7 landscape committee recommendations, mostly tree removal, and only 2 of those were approved. The others were denied. We don't take out trees willy-nilly. I mean, it has to really be a good reason, not just because they're messing up my lawn or I don't like the leaves that they drop or whatever. So we're very proud of our trees here in United, and the diversity of it, all the different kinds, and of course the maturity. So we do our best to protect those. Now, we appointed 2 people at the meeting. First of all, Kay Anderson as an advisor on the Architectural Control and Standards Committee. And secondly, we ratified the appointment, which we did earlier, for Richard Rader as our representative on VMS. As most people know, he was recently elected to the City Council. And so we needed to replace him, and we are very pleased that we got Richard Rader to do that. Under new business, we had 3 things, and they all have to be postponed until September. It's very frustrating when our meetings are not 30 days apart. Our meetings, June to July and July to August, are 29 days apart. And so we have to go an extra month. So we did things like the hot tub standard, which we did not, we sent it back to committee because there was a lot of discussion about the noise variance that we got from the city not being enough for what we needed for an internal hot tub. And
I wanted to ask about that. Are you talking about the hot tubs that somebody would put in their patio, the hot tubs that you can convert your bathroom?
No, it's not the walk-in tubs. It's not the jetted tubs. They are, I think it's a brand name, jacuzzis. They are those kinds of things.
The freestanding.
Yes, and mostly they're on the patio. We have a couple in atriums that have been a problem. And so this new rule will say they cannot be in atriums. They can only be on patios, and they cannot be on balconies. And they have to be.
Yes, I would hope not.
They have to be. Well, you'd be surprised. They have to be drained to an outside drain. You can't just stick a hose over into the landscaping and empty your tub or those kinds of things. So there are some common sense rules that go along with it, but we've not had anything, and so it's been difficult to enforce.
When it comes to the atriums, is the worry that the noise that gets generated?
Yes, exactly. We also have a problem with atriums, and that's going to be coming up on our meeting next month. When atriums have a shared wall,
yes,
back to back, which in 3-4 of our models that is true, and somebody encloses their atrium or heightens that wall or whatever, it can really affect their neighbor. And so we're going to be looking at that in depth at our September meeting.
Okay.
Is this probably
August?
True?
I know that some people have taken the atriums and they might put some sort of a sunshade on the top of them.
Sometimes they roof them and make them into an extra room.
Right, and I know that as well.
Right, so it just depends on the model and what that wall between the two atriums is, and how it affects their neighbor, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Also, as you know, we spent a long time doing a common area, use of common area, and one of the things that was kind of an oddball that we didn't specifically say in that was that we could use common area. It's up to, I think, 3 feet outside of your wall for air conditioner, compressors, water heaters, utilities is what we're calling them, those kinds of things. You can't use them for any other kind of use, but our standard allows that. And then
and I recall during the meeting, one of the things that was debated on is some of those units are small, some of them are larger, so you're kind of looking, there's no real one set size.
That's right, and some of them have water heaters. Mine has a large tank water heater in the closet, in the hallway. Some of them have new water heaters and they are vented and they're to the outside. And we've had an ongoing situation with the city of Laguna Woods as to what kind of, there's a Watts device that turns it off if there's any kind of a leak or whatever. Do we have to put those on? Which ones do we have to put those on? It's costly. And when you have as many units, 6,325, as we do, it gets to be quite a financial burden.
And so
we're looking at those. I just wanted to mention that the August meeting, we have a few things that were brought forward from last month that we will be actually voting on. We had the first reading, but we will be actually voting on the drone policy as proposed by GRF, the qualifiers for subleasing manners for short-term rentals, and that basically added language that said you cannot advertise in media or any other print or any other kind of media a rental for less than 90 days, which is our rule. And then also the shareholder financial requirements, we took out the one that said if you have a loan from NCB, you don't have to qualify financially, and we felt that was old and out of date and wasn't going to do.
Yes, you have talked about that to me over the past several months, and times have changed.
That's right.
You have to look at it in a different way now.
And we feel that we have an obligation, certainly first and foremost to the United, to the mutual, to make sure that the assessments are paid, because that's our revenue, as we're going to be finding this morning in our budget meetings. But by the same token, we want to make sure that the people living here have enough funds, have enough resources to live here, and are not a burden on the community or have to come in and go out because they can't afford to live here. So if we just leave it to NCB, if you qualify for the loan, or if we now ask that you do have the financial qualifications of income so that you can live here once you're in the village.
Let's face it, things have changed compared to 30, 40 years ago. People are living longer.
That's right.
Just like the same situation with Social Security. You have to look at things differently as time goes on and adjust as necessary.
And that's why we're continually looking at our governing documents to make sure that they're up with the times. And that brings us to the bylaws. The bylaws are out for vote, and we really, really hope everybody will vote. Even if you don't vote yes, which is of course what we prefer, get that ballot in, because we have to have a certain number. I believe it's 945 or something like that. It's 1/3 of the number of manners that we have, just for the vote to be valid, whether it's yes, no, or whatever. So please don't throw your ballot away. It's very frustrating to me when I talk to people and they say, oh, I don't do those kinds of things, I just throw it away. No, 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 no. You really need to get that ballot back. It makes a big, big difference.
Yeah. It's interesting that when you were talking about at the meeting, and you mentioned that, and how important it is, whether they vote yes or no, you need those back, because if you don't get enough back for some reason, no matter how the votes go, it's nullified.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's
costly, right?
I mean, we see this in elections at all levels.
Yes.
And the people that come out to vote has been getting smaller and smaller. And a lot of people say, no, I'm retired, I'm just here to enjoy myself, I'm not here to get involved with governance, etc. But you are a citizen here, you do live here, you are a resident, and it affects you. And therefore, it's very important that you get that ballot back. It will be the same thing when we vote for directors a little bit later this year.
That's right.
Now, there's been some controversy, very little, thank goodness, but I'd like to address that today.
Please do.
On one of the provisions in the bylaws. The old bylaws had wording in it that said, basically, anybody of any age could buy a share. And while that's true under the state laws of California for real estate, it does not hold true for stock cooperatives. One of the things we did is to look very carefully through all of the bylaws when we updated them to make sure that they were in sync with not only the state, the civil code, but also with our other governing documents, primarily our occupancy agreement that everybody has to sign. And when they were in disagreement, we tried to bring them together. We are not trying to prohibit anybody from leaving their share to an heir. We're only saying that if the heir is not 55 and qualifies, they cannot live here. We also found out when we were going through all of these that if we allow the people who are not 55 to come into the community and be members of the community, we could lose our preferred class status as a over 55 community. And there are so many implications for that, starting with taxes. So we want to preserve that. Civil Code Section 4190 defines the stock corporation and makes it clear that the stock corporation consists of shareholders who must receive a right of exclusive occupancy. As such, the stock cooperative, they must sign the occupancy agreement to meet the right for exclusive occupancy. And we don't want to have people having to lie, say, yes, I'm going to live here, and they have no intention of living here. So I hope that clears up a little bit to people who have been seeing some of the emails.
May I ask you something on this? Because I know you and I have talked about this just before you came on, and also at the meeting. Let's say someone that inherits the manor, they're under 55, maybe they're 45 or whatever they may be. Talk about the fact that can they rent it out? Can they still own it and rent it?
Our operating rules, which are one of our other governing documents, specifically says you have to be a qualifying member with a signed occupancy agreement before you can sublease the unit. And so that if
that's an important provision.
It is. It's an important provision. We're very protective of our community and our 55 plus, and we don't want to open it to everybody. We're hoping when they do turn 55, they will come back. And there have been a couple of exceptions. I can think of one in the 3 years that I've been on the board where someone inherited a unit and they were 54. And we allowed them to keep the unit but not be a member until they turned 55, which was, I think, 6-8 months, something like that. We also make allowances for probate because those sometimes take quite a bit of time. Those kinds of things, if it's heirs. We try to be understanding. We have to have our basic rules, but as with everything, you can come to the board and ask for an exception if it's really needed. But we are not an investment that you leave to your children to rent out. If they don't want to live here, sell it and give them the money, or have them sell it and then just take the money. So they don't want to live here. They should not lie to say they want to be members and occupy the unit and then want to sublease it.
Okay, very good.
So.
And again, people have until July
30th.
Or
No,
July 30th.
It is a Sunday,
That's
so
right.
you know, it's funny, but that's the 30 days that we have to
Yeah.
have. The ballots went out on June 30th. And we will be counting the ballots on Tuesday, August 2nd, in the boardroom, and it will be televised. So stay tuned.
All right, very good. Thank you for coming on.
Oh,
because
it's
we
my
know you have a
pleasure,
busy
always.
day.
Absolutely.
All right, you take
now we
care.
go do our budget.
Yes, have fun. Thank you very much. I'll take that back, and we will be back in just a moment.
As you may know, United's existing bylaws were adopted in 1994. The California laws governing our community have experienced so much change within the past few years alone, it makes our current bylaws unreliable. As our community has continued to develop, our needs have changed. The updated bylaws will help us address our changing needs. Moreover, it only makes sense to have governing documents that are updated and reflect modern law. The board has worked closely with United's attorneys in drafting the proposed amendment and restated bylaws to ensure that your interests are protected and the community is properly managed. The proposed bylaws clearly and effectively set forth policies and procedures for the governing of the community. Most importantly, the proposed bylaws have been updated to reflect current law, and important provisions have been clarified. The board's goal through this important process has been to assure that United's and, significantly, your interests are represented and adequately addressed. We encourage you to vote in favor of the proposed amendment and restated bylaws.